Good morning, everyone. I will call to order the June 27, 2024 Clackamas County Board of Commissioners business meeting. Administrator Gary Schmidt, would you please take the roll call?
Yes, thank you, Chair Smith. First, our staff support today. Clerk to the Board, Tony Mayernick. County Counsel, Jane Veto. Commissioner Schrader is out of the office today. Roll call, Commissioner Savas.
Present.
Commissioner West.
Present.
Commissioner Shull.
Here.
Chair Smith.
Here. I will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. We are holding this meeting in person and virtually. If you've joined us via Zoom for this meeting and are interested in testifying, we will prompt you regarding how to do that when the time is right. General public comment will be taken at the usual allotted time. I would like to remind all participants, including staff, all elected officials, and members of the public, that Robert's Rules of Order will be followed in this business meeting. We look forward to your opinions and appreciate your polite comments. I will now recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Housing Authority of Clackamas County Board of Commissioners. Gary.
This is the Housing Authority consent agenda. Joining you online is Housing Commissioner Ann Leenstra. Good morning, Commissioner Leenstra.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here. Tony, would you please read the consent agenda?
Housing Authority consent agenda, 2 items. Item 1, approval of amendment number 1, increasing the value and extending the term of a personal services contract with Impact Northwest for continued peer support and housing specialist services for Housing Authority program participants. Amendment value $364,924.83 for 1 year. Agreement value is increased to $723,422.43 for 1 year and 10 months. Funding through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval of amendment number 1, increasing the value and extending the term of a personal services contract with the Mental Health and Addiction Association of Oregon, providing peer support services to Housing Authority program participants. Amendment value is $108,509.88 for 1 year. Agreement value is increased to $217,318.92 for 1 year and 8 months. Funding through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure funds. No county general funds are involved.
Thank you. Does any commissioner wish to remove an item off this particular consent agenda? Ann Leenstra, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve the Housing Authority consent agenda as read.
Seconded.
Commissioner Leenstra has moved that we approve the Housing Authority consent agenda, and Commissioner Shull has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the poll?
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Shull.
Aye.
Commissioner Leenstra.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much, Commissioner Leenstra, for showing today.
You're welcome.
I will now adjourn as a Housing Authority Board and convene as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board of Directors. Gary.
Next is a public hearing for the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board. Item 1, approval of a supplemental budget resolution over 10% for fiscal year 2023-2024. Appropriations are increased by $14,000. Funding is through intra-fund transfers and other revenue sources. No county general funds are involved. So we'll have a quick presentation by staff. And Kia, will you do? Yes, Kia Selly is the director of the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. Just give a quick recap of what this is for your information. Thank you, Kia. Welcome.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Kia Selly. I'm the District Director for North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. I'm here today seeking approval of a supplemental budget over 10% for the current fiscal year. The effect of this resolution is a net increase of $14,000 in appropriations and a transfer in appropriations of $37,000. to address funding in 3 key areas. Funding is increased for the nutrition program at the Milwaukee Community Center to address higher demand for the program as well as the increased cost of food. Additional funding has also been allocated to cover the lump sum payment to staff agreed upon during the COLA reopener agreement. And third, this is actually great news. The NCPRD System Development Charge Funds are increasing revenue and some investment fees because interest revenue, investment fees have come in higher than expected. So, and again, that's a great news story for NCPRD. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Kia. Do any of the commissioners have clarifying questions or comments before I open the public hearing? Okay. I will now open the public hearing on this particular item only. If there's anybody in the room who would like to participate, please put a blue card in the basket. Tony, do we have anybody in person?
Not at this time, Madam Chair.
Do we have anybody online?
There is no one from the general public online, Madam Chair.
Well, thank you. I will now close the public hearing and ask commissioners, is there any further discussion?
Yes, Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Savas.
Just want to ask Kia a question, and perhaps we can discuss this at a future date. That is, I believe we're the only parks district in the state of Oregon that runs a Meals on Wheels program. And I'm also of the understanding that we make a substantial contribution into, in this case, part of this action item here is funding for that program as well. So I just wondered if there's any other resource we can use, knowing the situation of the financial forecast. I know that's changing, but certainly the writing on the wall that the millage rate is not keeping up, and I just don't know how we could keep that whole. I'm not saying we cut it, it's how do we supplant other funds? Not a question I'm answering, looking for an answer today, but I think we ought to be exploring a way to keep the district sound.
Okay.
And at the same time, keep people that are hungry fed.
Yeah, we will continue to investigate ways to maintain that program and those services while not utilizing as much general fund. Director Savas, it's a good point.
Yep, thank you, Kia.
Any further discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation Supplemental Budget Resolution for fiscal year 23-24. Seconded.
Director Savas has moved that we approve the Clackamas County Parks and Recreation District Supplemental Budget Resolution for fiscal year 2023-24. Director Scholl has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Tony, would you please take the poll?
Director West.
Aye.
Director Scholl.
Aye.
Director Savas.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much, Kia, for coming forward. I will now adjourn as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. Gary, what's next?
Next is a public hearing. Item 1, approval of a supplemental budget resolution over 10% for fiscal year 2023-2024. Appropriations are increased by $10,375,299. Funding is through charge for services, federal, state, and local grants, intra-fund transfers, other revenue sources, and $4,461,095 in county general funds. Sandra Montoya, Budget Manager, will present.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Good morning, Commissioners and Chair. Madam Chair, it's wonderful to have you back.
Well, thank you very much.
Sandra Montoya, Budget Manager. Thank you for having me this morning. We have an item before you this morning for a supplemental budget. This is the last item of the fiscal year. We do this as a requirement for our budget. Budget law says that before we go over in a fund and in a department and in a category, that we have to request authority to increase the budget in a category in order to stay within our spending limits. So before you, we have a packet of 15 items. We have 6 items that are increasing budget authority from contingency to a spendable category. We have 8 items that are recognizing additional revenue and increasing spending authority. And we have 1 that is correcting spending authority to a different category. So we originally had it in an incorrect category. The auditor said, hey, this needs to be corrected. We're now correcting that. So that makes up the 15. I do want to call out, we do have 2 corrections, again, because we're getting close to the fiscal year end, and as we're looking at things, we want to make sure that rather than having audit findings, that we are falling in line and correcting things as we can. So from the publicly noticed supplemental, we have 2 changes, and the law says that all we have to do is make our best effort when we publish it. So we did that, but we do have 2 changes to call out from the document you have in front of you. And that is item number 10, that's H3S, no change in the amount, but in the published document, we had 19.1 million, all being put in materials and services. This morning before you, we have a split of that 19.1 million. Some of it is going into materials and services, and I believe 500,000 is going into transfers. So that's the difference. Again, same amount, no change in the amount, but it's now being split into 2 categories. The second change is item number 15, and that is DTD Fleet. That item was also already in there, but because they are getting close to their spending limit, we're going to go ahead and bump up what we're requesting for budget authority so that we don't have any audit findings at year end. So with that, that's it, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you. Before I open the public hearing, do commissioners have any questions or qualifying statements?
Only that if the motion or the amounts that are in when you said in front of us, we have a script in front of us. So for the motion before us, is that still accurate?
Motion is still correct.
Okay,
Yes.
that's all I have.
Thank you. I will now open the hearing for public testimony on this supplemental budget item. Is there anyone in the room who would like to testify? Seeing none. Tony, do we have anyone online who would like to testify?
Madam Chair, we do not have any members of the public on Zoom at the moment.
I will now close the public hearing and ask if there's any further discussion. And I will entertain a motion.
I move for approval of the supplemental budget resolution for fiscal year 23-24. Appropriations are increased by $10,375,299. Funding is through charges for services, federal, state, and local grants, and interfund transfers, other revenue sources, and $4,461,095 in county general funds.
Point of clarification.
I'm sorry, I just
That is-
read the wrong part. I just read the hearing piece.
Yeah, that's not the motion we're considering.
I move we approve the supplemental budget resolution for fiscal year 23-24.
Seconded.
Commissioner Savas has moved we approve the supplemental budget resolution over 10% for fiscal year 23-24. And Commissioner Shull has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the poll?
Director West?
Aye.
Director Shull?
Aye.
Director Savas?
Aye.
Chair Smith?
Aye, motion has passed 4-0. Thank you, Sandra. Gary, what's next?
Next is also a public hearing, item 2, second reading of ordinance number 2-2024, an ordinance permanently banning psilocybin product manufacturers and psilocybin service centers in the unincorporated areas of Clackamas County. No fiscal impact, no county general funds are involved. Caleb Hugel, Assistant County Counsel, will present, and Caleb is getting married this weekend. Congratulations, Caleb.
Oh, my gosh, really?
All the best to you and your future.
Thank you, Administrator Schmidt.
Well, congratulations are in order. Very nice.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Good morning, Commissioners. Caleb Hugel, Assistant County Counsel. This is the 3rd time I've been before you on this issue, so I'll keep my comments brief and mainly for the benefit of the audience. In 2020, Oregon voters passed Measure 109, which legalizes psilocybin in limited circumstances. The product has to be from a licensed manufacturer, tested at a licensed laboratory. It has to be taken at a licensed service center and under the supervision of a licensed facilitator, and OHA is responsible for all of that licensing. However, Measure 109 allows local governments to adopt ordinances banning manufacturers and service centers within their jurisdiction, subject to approval by the voters. In 2022, this board adopted an ordinance temporarily banning those uses. The ordinance was approved by the voters, but it expires at the end of this year. At a policy session on May 15th, you directed us to prepare an ordinance permanently banning those uses for referral to the voters this November. We did that. The ordinance is designated 2/2024. You held a public hearing on the ordinance on June 13th, asked a lot of very good questions, and you scheduled a second public hearing for today. Staff recommends that you hold this public hearing and adopt the ordinance. If you do, we will prepare a ballot title and explanatory statement for your approval at a future policy session. We may also ask you whether you want to consider preparing time, place, and manner regulations for these uses in the event the ban is not approved by the voters. And with that, I can try to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Caleb. Do the commissioners have any qualifying questions or comments? I will now open the public meeting for testimony from in-person testimony. Is there anyone in the room who would like to testify on this particular item only? Seeing no one here who would like to testify, Tony, do we have anyone online?
Madam Chair, I do not currently have any members of the public on Zoom.
Thank you. I will now close the public hearing portion of this, and I will take commissioners' comments. I'll entertain a motion. Oh, excuse me, Commissioner Shaw, please comment.
I was just going to say, for the people who are listening today, this proposed ban on psilocybin service centers in unincorporated Clackamas County will not preclude people who live in our county from receiving psilocybin service, because some of our cities and our surrounding counties have authorized the use of psilocybin. Keep that in mind, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw. Is there any other commissioner comments? I will entertain a motion.
I move read the ordinance by title only.
Seconded.
Commissioner Savas has moved to read the ordinance by title only, and Commissioner West has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Commissioner Savas made the motion, and who was the second?
Shaw.
Shaw, excuse me, Commissioner Shaw. You sound alike this morning. Beg your pardon.
No problem.
Okay, and Commissioner Shaw has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Schull,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much. Clerk, please read the ordinance by title only.
Ordinance number 02-2024, an ordinance permanently banning psilocybin product manufacturers and psilocybin service centers in the unincorporated areas of Clackamas County.
Thank you. Do the commissioners have any proposed changes or amendments to the draft ordinances at this time? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve ordinance number 02-2024, an ordinance permanently banning psilocybin product manufacturers and psilocybin service centers in the unincorporated areas of Clackamas County.
Second.
Commissioner Schull has moved we approve ordinance number 02-2024, an ordinance permanently banning psilocybin product manufacturers and psilocybin service centers in the unincorporated areas of Clackamas County. Commissioner Savas has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Would the clerk please call the poll?
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schull,
Aye.
Commissioner West. Aye. Chair Smith.
Aye, the motion is approved 4-0. Now that this has been adopted, I will direct staff to prepare the materials necessary to ensure that it is properly submitted to the voters in the November 2024 election, including a ballot title and an explanatory statement for the board's review. Thank you very much for everybody doing a lot of hard work on this. Gary, what's next?
Next is a board discussion item. Item 1, approval of a comment letter to Metro on proposed changes to the supportive housing services measure. I am actually going to present this today. You have in front of you, and it is posted online, an updated draft of a letter from this board to the Metro Council discussing their consideration of a possible ballot measure in November 2024 that would change the supportive housing services tax that is currently in effect. This letter was discussed by you on Tuesday of this week. Staff, I believe, have incorporated all of the edits and suggestions you offered at that time. Today is your opportunity to please review those edits. Make any other further edits you wish, but we are seeking your approval of this letter today. So this is up to you now, Commissioners, and we're happy to hear your feedback, seeking your approval. Thank you.
Commissioners, this letter was sent to you via email yesterday afternoon. And since then, I have had the chair and mayor's meeting regarding this issue. And the mayors are very concerned about what Metro is doing with the same frustration level that we have talked about many times at this dais and in meetings. And this letter has been sent to the mayors for their review because they may consider their own letter. I am happy with the letter. Frankly, I'm not interested in a whole bunch of different changes today because the letter needs to go out. If we can make a moderate amount of changes, I'll consider that. But we need to get the letter out. It has been online, and it has been reviewed by multiple agencies, and I'm sure this is no surprise to Metro. Commissioner West.
I have a couple, maybe brief, there's not a lot of ink on that paper.
There's a lot of ink, Commissioner
It's
West.
not too much. It's not too much. Let me just, and we don't have to necessarily make these changes, but I think that it brings clarification to who and what we are in Clackamas County in paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4. Clackamas County's success can be attributed to implementing a recovery-oriented system of care. Clear about that. I like to add a brief, small sentence. In Clackamas County, we believe recovery is possible. I don't think that's too controversial.
Recovery from what?
Well, recovery, this letter's talking about SHS dollars, so the issues dealing with that dollars. Just a brief, clear kind of statement about we believe that people can recover.
Recover from what?
Well, the letter talks about from what, so that one
Well,
sentence alone doesn't need to.
I'm not sure I'll accept that change, but continue.
Okay. This focus has allowed the program to, this is what's already existing, this isn't a change, but this focus has allowed us to program services around the need of the whole person by increasing access to treatment while providing accountability. The ROSC allows all stakeholders in the community to participate in a recovery continuum. And then this is the last change I would have. In Clackamas County, we are building out essential infrastructure to fill the gaps. It says of this system, I want to take out of this system and add within a full care continuum, providing access to prevention and effective treatment and recovery is what I'd like to add on top. I like to just be more precise than of this system.
And what was that language? Slowly?
Yep, after of this system, it's near the end of that paragraph, expand it to say, within a full care continuum, providing access to prevention and effective treatment and recovery. And then, so that's what I like to add to that paragraph, and those are the only critiques I have.
Okay, Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, I support the changes Commissioner West is proposing. I would like to make one small addition. The above the, from the bottom up, you have not really a paragraph, but
Excuse me, Paul, where are you at again?
I'm at the bottom of the page.
Okay.
So going up from the sentence that starts with, "We ask you to pause," it's not really a paragraph, but it's phases 1. I suggest that we move that to the bottom. And I would also like to add to that ask language that reads something to the effect of, therefore, after the word programs, therefore, we request a regional roundtable discussion amongst the 3 counties and Metro councilors.
The only problem with that is Metro will say that we've already had that. We've had that for the last many months, a roundtable.
As my words with the jurisdictions and just the jurisdictions of the counties.
So you want to limit it to the elected officials of the tri-counties?
We're responsible for the dollars.
I know.
Yeah.
Paul, I'm getting for language. I want to really
Yeah.
make the language clear. Are we saying a roundtable, and let me write this down, roundtable
Of the 3 counties and Metro councilors.
3 counties elected officials?
Yeah, the elected officials.
Putting
yeah.
that in, elected officials and Metro. Metro elected officials? Okay. I don't have a problem with that.
You can also make it easier, just put county commissioners and metro councilors. That's easier.
Okay.
I also support that.
I support that. I think that's a good idea.
Again, it'd be down at the bottom, just shift it from where it is down at the bottom.
And
so
we
you-
move that to
close
the
with-
bottom, ahead of the paragraph that starts with thank you.
Correct.
Okay, now, Commissioner Scholl, you're up.
Yes, I had no problems with the letter as it was presented to us this morning. The focus of the letter is to ask Metro to stop, put the brakes on this idea to put the supportive housing services measure on the ballot in November to make it permanent. And the people of Clackamas County, the people of the region who in 2020 voted for Measure 26-210, known as a supportive housing services measure, have a right to see decisive progress on supportive housing before they're asked to consider extending the supportive housing services measure. By my arithmetic, the way it's going now with the taxes being brought in on this measure, it'll bring in at least $2.5 billion by the time it currently sunsets on 31 December 2030. So I support the letter as it's written.
Okay,
Chair, I move we approve the letter with amendments discussed.
I'll second.
Commissioner Savas has moved we approve the letter with the verbal amendments as presented today. Commissioner West has seconded the motion. Now, does staff understand what those additions are? Do we have that? And we can go over that, make it more clear if we need to.
If I may have a moment, Chair, I'm going to pull this up and share this with the board, and we can make sure that what you said is what I wrote.
While he's doing that, would commissioners, do all 5 of you want to sign this letter?
I would like to.
One commissioner is not present here today.
But we also can reach out to that, and our signatures are, you know, how is that process done when, you know?
We would verbally ask Commissioner Schrader if she's okay, and if so, then we would, is that okay, Jane? We would just add her signature.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it'd be more impactful.
We have time before this needs to be presented to catch up with Martha Schrader in her trek across the world. And that will be fine. I would like all 5 signatures on here, personally.
Okay.
Yes, I think that's great. So, commissioners, Tony, go ahead.
Madam Chair, the first paragraph I do want to review just real quickly is the changes Commissioner West requested, adding that the one sentence and the one change to the text. I want to make sure that that text is.
Yeah, in Clackamas County, we believe recovery is possible. Is that what you're referring to?
You can say, from substance abuse disorder and mental health, from substance abuse disorders. If you were worried about it, that brief of a sentence, but, that specifically says what we're helping people recover from.
Only because we understand what a recovery-oriented system of care is, and I'm not sure an outsider looking in knows what our intent is. If you want to, Tony, can we
Yeah.
add those 2 words, please?
You could say something like, recovery is possible, adopting recovery is possible from substance abuse disorders
And mental health?
and mental health and substance abuse disorders. I think mental health should go first, it sounds better.
Okay.
From mental health and substance abuse disorders.
I like being more clear on that.
Yeah, is possible. And then going down. This out of my.
And then I would be striking the of this system and replacing that with within a.
Clackamas County, we are building out essential infrastructure to fill the gaps within a full care continuum, providing access to prevention and effective treatment and recovery.
Period. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And
Sounds good to me.
And then the last change I am aware of is moving this request to the end of the paragraph, or end of the letter, and then adding the additional text requesting the roundtable discussion.
I think that's clear as well.
We therefore request a
That was good. Okay, we have a motion on the table, correct?
We do,
Any
Madam
further
Chair.
comments? Tony, would you please take the poll?
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, thank you very much. We'll have all 5 signatures on that when we can get them, and then it will be delivered to the Metro Council, I assume via email. I would like them to get it before their meeting so they take time to ponder it. If we deliver it on the day of their work session, it's just like us. We don't often take the time to read something the day of the session. They need to be fully cognizant of what we're saying in this. Commissioner West?
I just have a quick timeline question. It's my understanding, and Chair Smith, you might be able to bring clarity on this, that right now we're the first impacted or jurisdiction within this to make formal comment on this process moving forward. We're ahead of everybody else. I'm curious about the timeline we're looking at. We're all going into break, so we're ahead of it before we go into break and being prepared. I am curious about understanding what that timeline's looking like with their meetings and then when we're making these decisions, just for the public's edification.
The Metro Council has a work session on Tuesday, July 9th to discuss this. Because you're on recess, we're doing the letter now. We'll send it as soon as we reach Commissioner Schrader, as soon as today, but if not, then on Monday, next week. So the council gets us in way ahead of time of their July 9th meeting.
Okay.
And we don't know what that decision is. Since we're on break, I request that the commissioners are emailed what that action is taken, if any. Additionally, Catherine Harrington from Washington County Chair has also reviewed this letter, and she likes it. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I think my experience with this is that in the many years, I don't testify before the Metro Council that often, but over the years I have. And most recently, I've realized that sometimes written letters sometimes don't make it to the awareness of the council. They're in the packet perhaps, or they're perhaps in an email that the Metro Councilors may or may not receive. So as I mentioned on Tuesday, I won't be in town on July 9th, but I would strongly suggest that whoever jurisdictions or someone, at least someone from this commission, not only do we send the letter or email in advance of the meeting, but we also present the letter and read the letter if there is opportunity for public testimony. If there's not public testimony, okay, Gary.
It's a work session like us, so no public testimony during their work sessions.
The only other alternative is to read it at a meeting the week before, at one of the regular meetings before.
So my request was to send this to every single Metro Council at their personal email. And Marissa Madrigal, who is leading this effort in addition, so they get it twice. And I think I was clear on that, wasn't I?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah, I'm not countering that. I agree
know.
with that. I'm just thinking, in addition to, a personal delivery sometimes is far more powerful, and if it's only a work session, maybe delivering it on the 11th, which they meet on Thursdays, on the 11th could also suffice, because public comment is available on their Thursday meetings.
The 11th is 2 days after the work session.
Right. They won't, if it's a work session, they won't make a decision, but it's a way of delivering the message personally.
I think it needs to be considered for sure on the 9th during the work session.
I agree.
Okay. Commissioner West?
I mean, I'm all for sending a singing telegram if it impacts it. I'm all about, getting the word out. Gary, we talked about, because a lot of us are going to be at the NACO conference, one of us, I offered, and we can talk about that, at least zooming in to their public meeting, and staff would be there to make public testimony. Am I right? Am I understanding this rightly? Potentially, when
On
they.
the 11th?
On the 11th.
11th is a travel day.
I'm still, not for me.
Okay, we'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah. I would still be available to potentially call in, or if nobody was there. But I think we're talking about, how we can continue to, push this message forward within a public meeting. I don't know what you think, Gary, but.
How about we can work all this offline, so we can see at least one commissioner can attend the Metro business meeting where there is public testimony, which would be July 11th. I'm not sure if they have it the week before. We'll check on calendars. We can work that out offline.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. You guys work on that.
Okay.
Offline, excuse me.
Perfect.
Okay. Is it time for the vote?
Madam Chair, we have already completed the vote.
You've already taken the
Yep,
vote.
you voted?
Okay.
All right, we'll take care of this. Thank you. All right, next is the consent agenda. This is a very long consent agenda. Tony is going to start. Jane and I will assist when he tells us to assist. But if you're ready, Chair and Commissioners, Tony, would you please read the consent agenda?
Elected officials, item 1, approval of previous business meeting minutes for the Board of County Commissioners. County Council, item 1, approval of a settlement agreement with Adaja Madison to resolve litigation related to the incarceration and subsequent death of Jermel Madison, which occurred in Clackamas County Jail. Total value $287,500. Funding through county risk funds. No county general funds are involved. Clackamas 911, also known as CCOM, approval of a contract with the Denise Amber Lee Foundation for Quality Assurance Reviews. Contract value not to exceed $300,000 over 5 years. Funding through 911 tax revenues and CCOM member fees. No county general funds are involved. Finance, item 1, approval of amendment number 1 to a contract with Marina and Company LLP for annual comprehensive financial report drafting. Amendment value is $130,000 in 14 months. Contract value increased to $230,000 for 2 years. Funding through budgeted county general funds. Disaster management, item 1, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Metro for reimbursing costs associated with the disaster-generated debris during the January 2024 winter storm. Total value is $20,000. Funding through Metro Disaster Debris Management Reserve and Grant Program. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval of a memorandum of agreement with the Clackamas District Fire Defense Board and the Oregon Department of Forestry to acknowledge approval of the changes to the 2024 Community Wildfire Protection Plan. No fiscal impact. No county general funds are involved. Transportation and Development, item 1, approval to submit fire park, roadway, and infrastructure improvements in Barton Master Plan Phase 1 development projects for Metro bond funding. Allocated bond value $5,381,324. Funding through 2019 Metro Parks and Nature Bond. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval to apply for an Oregon Department of Transportation Safe Routes to School grant for improvements near Oak Grove Elementary School. Grant value is $889,600. Including $91,362 in matching funds. Funding through the Oregon Department of Transportation and matching funds through the County Road Fund. No county general funds are involved. Item 3, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Oregon City for traffic signal maintenance and transportation engineering services. Agreement value is estimated at $60,000 over 10 years. Funding through the City of Oregon City. No county general funds are involved. Item 4, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Hoodland Fire District Number 74 for use and possible future conveyance of county-owned properties known as the Hoodland Park property. No fiscal impact. No county general funds are involved. Item 5, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for the Local Agency Certification Program. No fiscal impact. No county general funds are involved. Item number 6, approval of amendment number 1 to a local agency agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for the Canby-Markham Highway Bear Creek Bridge Project. Amendment value $275,243.64. Funding through the Oregon Department of Transportation and County Road Funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 7, approval of a public improvement contract with Pave Northwest Incorporated for the Jennings Lodge Type 2 slurry seal package. Total value $276,379.11. Funding through County House Bill 2017 funds. No county general funds are involved. Health, Housing, Human Services, approval of amendment number 2, extending the duration, updating the scope of work, and increasing the funding to a personal services contract with El Programa Hispano Católico for housing navigation and case management services. Amendment value $1,371.49 for 1 year. Agreement value increased to $3,671,394.46 for 4 years. Funding through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure Funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval of amendment number 2, extending the duration, updating the scope, and increasing the funding of a personal services contract with Greater New Hope Family Services, LLC, for supportive housing, case management, and housing navigation services. Amendment value $653,207.10 for 1 year. Agreement value increased to $2,403,358.45 for 3 years and 8 months. Funding through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure Funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 3, approval of amendment number 1, extending the duration and increasing the value of a personal services contract with the Native American Youth and Family Center to continue to provide emergency shelters, supportive housing, case management, and rapid rehousing services. Amendment value $1,940,805.04 for 1 year. Agreement value is increased to $3,901,594.85 for 2 years. Funding through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure Funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 4, approval of amendment number 3, increasing the value of a personal services contract with the Father's Heart Street Ministry for outreach, severe weather shelter, and housing navigation. Amendment value is $200,000. Agreement value is increased to $3,692,169 for 2 years. Funding through the governor's state of emergency due to homelessness state funding. No county general funds are involved. Item 5, approval of amendment number 3, increasing the value and extending the duration of a personal services contract with Do Good Multnomah to provide supportive housing case management at Clayton Moore Commons. Amendment value $348,782.83 for 1 year. Agreement value is increased to $604,198.43 for 2 years. Funding through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 6, approval of amendment number 3, extending the duration and increasing the value of a personal services contract with Do Good Multnomah for supportive services at the Clackamas County Veterans Village. Amendment value $369,986.30 for 1 year. Contract is increased to $2,087,539.49 for 3 years. Funding through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure funds. No county general funds are involved. Item number 7, approval of amendment number 3 to update the scope of work, extend the term, and increase the value of a personal services contract with Clackamas Service Center Incorporated for site-based outreach and engagement services and on-call emergency services. Amendment value $298,853.47 for 1 year. Agreement value is increased to $775,502.47 for 2 years and 8 months. Funding through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 8, approval of amendment number 2, extending the duration and increasing the funding of a federal subrecipient grant agreement with LifeWorks Northwest for intensive case management services. Amendment value is $129,318.30 for 9 months. Agreement value is increased to $517,273.20 for 36 months. Funding through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved. Item 9, approval of amendment number 2, extending the term and increasing the value of a personal services contract with Ant Farm for supportive services for youth in the rural areas of Clackamas County. Amendment value $783,260.12 for 1 year. Contract value increased to $1,630,706.84 for 1 year and 7 months. Funding through budgeted county general funds. Item 10, approval of amendment number 3, increasing the funding of a federal subrecipient grant agreement with Central City Concern for the Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program. Amendment value $360,000 for 6 months. Agreement value is increased to $2,238,643.36 for 24 months. Funding through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 11, approval of a personal services contract with Central City Concern for Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program outreach, navigation and placement, and supportive housing case management services. Total contract value $1,754,459.45 for 1 year. Funding through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure funds and $203,425 of budgeted county general funds. Item 12, approval of amendment number 1, extending the term, expanding the scope of work, and adding funding to a personal services contract with Health Management Associates for technical assistance for the Continuum of Care annual consolidated application system support. Amendment value $215,000 for 1 year. Contract value increased to $331,415 for 2 year. Funding is through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 13, approval of amendment number 4, extending the term and increasing funding of a personal services contract with the Father's Heart Street Ministry for safety off the street sheltering, navigation and placement, supportive housing case management, and connections to stable housing and inclement weather services. Amendment value $3,949,952.32 for 1 year. Contract value is increased to $8,713,768.84 for 3 years. Funding is through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure funds and $362,912 of budgeted county general funds. Item 14, approval of amendment number 2, extending the term, updating the scope of work, and increasing the value of a personal services contract with Up and Over LLC for mobile outreach and engagement, housing navigation, and supportive housing case management services. Amendment value is $812,549.65 for 1 year. Agreement value is increased to $1,963,192.74 for 2 years and 6 months. Funding through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 15, Approval of amendment number 4, extending the term, updating the scope of work, and increasing the value of a personal services contract with the Father's Heart Street Ministry for outreach and engagement, housing navigation and placement, and supportive housing case management. Amendment value $3,305,847 for 1 year. Agreement is increased to $6,998,016 for 2 years. Funding through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure Funds and the Governor's State of Emergency due to Homelessness State Funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 16, approval of amendment number 4, updating the scope of work, extending the term, and increasing the value of a personal services contract with Impact Northwest for housing navigation and placement, supportive housing case management services. Amendment value $951,244.06 for 1 year. Total contract value increased to $2,653,050.22. Funding is through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure Funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 17, approval of amendment number 4, updating the scope of work, extending the term, and increasing the value of a personal services contract with Northwest Housing Alternatives Incorporated for emergency shelter with housing navigation, supportive housing case management, and rapid rehousing services. Amendment value $2,082,461 for 1 year. Total contract value is increased to $4,577,505.96. Funding through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure Funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 18, approval of amendment number 3, extending the term, increasing the value of a personal services contract with the Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization for outreach and engagement, housing navigation and placement, and supportive housing case management services. Amendment value $572,028.48 for 1 year. Contract value is increased to $1,854,536.93 for 3 years. Funding is through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure Funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 19, approval of amendment number 1 to a personal services contract with 211 Info for assistance with Clackamas County's Coordinated Housing Access Hotline. Amendment value $303,205.56 for 1 year. Contract value is increased to $966,180.56 for 2 years. Funding is through Metro Supportive Housing Services Funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 20, approval of a revenue intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas Fire District Number 1 for reimbursement of Gelota software for community paramedic program. Total value is $48,470 for 2 years. Funding through Clackamas Fire District Number 1. No county general funds are involved. Item 21, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Oregon Health and Sciences University for emergency medical services. Agreement value is $123,947 for 3 years. Funding through ambulance service franchise fees. No county general funds are involved. Item 22, approval of a contract with Catholic Community Services of Western Washington for stabilization services for children and their families. Total contract value $1,454,164 for 15 months. Funding through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved. Item 23, approval of a federal subrecipient grant agreement with the Mental Health and Addiction Association of Oregon for alcohol and drug recovery peer delivered services. Total agreement value $524,145.90 for 18 months. Funding through the Oregon Health Authority and federal pass-through funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 24, approval of amendment number 1, increasing funding of a behavioral health services delegation agreement with Care Oregon Incorporated for behavioral health services. Amendment value $1,446,273 for 6 months. Agreement value is increased to $2,697,921 for 12 months. Funding through the Oregon Health Plan. No county general funds are involved. Last item. Approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Gladstone School District to embed a mental health specialist at Gladstone High School. Total value is $61,500 for 1 year. Funding through the Gladstone School District. No county general funds are involved. Madam Chair, can I repeat anything?
One more time, please.
Just start from the beginning.
I didn't catch it all.
Thank you, Tony. Very good. Bravo. Quite the performance today. Commissioners, now is your time to opine on any of these consent agenda items. Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, thank you, Tony. You know, today you just read a little over $25,790,000 worth of consent agenda, mostly for transportation, health care, mental health, supportive housing, and supportive housing case management and outreach, amongst other things. It just caused me to reflect on the need for the BCC and county staff to ensure oversight and the judicial use of these funds, and to ensure that these resources come with some measurable progress in these areas, because the future may not provide the same amount of funds that we're able to work with today. Thanks.
Good points, Commissioner Shull. Any other comments?
Yeah, I'll opine somewhat similarly. I think it demonstrates, number one, I would look at how many of those were supported by the supportive housing funds. There is a lot of administrative activity, cost, work that's being done. Simply what we saw here today is only a small portion of that, but not insignificant. The cost to maintain, or not to maintain, but to administer all these funds as they come through Metro, and then they are, the collection is done with a contract with the city of Portland, so there's a lot of staffing there. Then there's also, the work that's being done at the counties and administrating and making sure we're not withholding, but we are, implementing and monitoring and meeting all the requirements. I'd be interested in seeing, it's not a request, but I'd just be interested, for sake of discussion, in seeing if you take one Metro housing dollar collected from a taxpayer and see that broken down into where all the different places it goes. I think it'd be educational for me. I can imagine what that might look like, in overall, but I think it'd be a good exercise. But thank you, Tony, for a very complete read. Very well done.
Thank you. I will mention that many of the items on the Health, Housing, and Human Services consent agenda is for year-end fiscal year, and there are contracts that we renew every year. Not all of them, but many are, so it's nothing that's new to the board. Does any commissioner wish to remove any item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Seconded.
Commissioner Savas has moved we approve the consent agenda. Commissioner Shull has seconded the motion. Would the clerk please call the poll?
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Shull.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion is approved, 4-0. Thank you very much, Commissioners. I will now recess as a Board of County Commissioners and convene as an Enhanced Law Enforcement District Board of Directors. Gary.
Next is the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Consent Agenda. Tony, I'm going to read it, give you a little break, but you'll post it online. Enhanced Law Enforcement Consent Agenda, Item 1, approval of a supplemental budget resolution under 10% for fiscal year 2023-2024 for the Enhanced Law Enforcement District. Net increase in appropriations of $364,695. Funding is through beginning fund balance and other revenue sources. No county general funds are involved. That is the consent agenda, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any comments? Does any commissioner wish to remove anything off this consent agenda? I'll entertain a motion.
Go ahead, Dan.
Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Second.
Commissioner West has moved for approval of the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Consent Agenda, and Commissioner Savas has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Director Shull.
Aye.
Director Savas.
Aye.
Director West.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much. I will now adjourn as the Enhanced Law Enforcement District Board and convene as the Library Service District of Clackamas County Board of Directors. Gary, what's next?
Next is the consent agenda for the Library Service District of Clackamas County. Item 1, approval of a supplemental budget resolution under 10% for fiscal year 2023-2024 for the Clackamas County Library Service District. Net increase in appropriations of $956,825. Funding is through beginning fund balance and other revenue sources. No county general funds are involved. That is the consent agenda, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Does any commissioner wish to remove anything off this particular consent agenda? I'll entertain a motion.
I move for approval of the Library Service District consent agenda.
Seconded.
Commissioner Savas has moved for the approval of the Library Service District of Clackamas County, and Commissioner who? Scholl has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, would you please take the poll?
Director West.
Aye.
Director Savas.
Aye.
Director Scholl.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. I will now adjourn as the Library Service District Board of Clackamas County and convene as the Clackamas County Development Agency Board of Directors. Gary.
Next is the consent agenda for the Development Agency of Clackamas County. Item 1, approval of amendment number 2 to a disposition and development agreement with AHP Acquisitions LLC. No fiscal impact, no county general funds are involved. That is the consent agenda, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Does any commissioner wish to remove any items off this particular consent agenda? Are there any comments or questions? I will entertain a motion.
I move for approval of the Development Agency consent agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Scholl has moved for approval of the Development Agency consent agenda, and Commissioner Savas has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Would the clerk please take the poll?
Director Savas.
Aye.
Director Scholl.
Aye.
Director West.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. I will now adjourn as a Development Agency Board and reconvene as a Board of County Commissioners. Up next is public communication. This portion of the agenda shall be limited to items of county business, which are properly the object of board consideration and should be nonpartisan in nature, as the BCC is a nonpartisan governing body under Oregon Revised Statutes and County Code. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes. Comments shall be respectful and courteous to all. As a reminder, you can email submissions for public communication at bcc@clackamas.us, and these will be accepted as part of the permanent record. I will now open the meeting for public testimony. I will take in-person testimony first. If you are here and would like to comment, please submit a blue card into the basket. Tony, I don't see anyone in person who would like to comment. Is there anyone online who would like to testify today?
Madam Chair, I do not have any members of the public on Zoom.
No testimony online. Thank you. I will now close the public communication portion of this meeting, and we will move on. Gary, what's next?
Next is County Administrator Update. That's me. I like to share the great work of our county employees during my time in front of you. Today, I'd like to recognize our Health, Housing, and Human Services staff. Under your direction, they have distributed over $1 million in grants for opioid response in Clackamas County, opioid settlement grant funds. $1 million in grants went to 5 community organizations to address the opioid crisis. One of those organizations was Parrot Creek Child and Family Services. They will use these funds for a mobile service center for individuals struggling with substance abuse disorders in rural and underserved areas. They wrote us a note. They wrote you a note saying, "This is exciting news. We are delighted to be further deepening our partnership with Clackamas County as we all respond to the opioid crisis in our communities. Thank you, Board of County Commissioners." So thank you to you, Commissioners, and to our staff in Health, Housing, and Human Services for facilitating those distributions. Next, our county's Women, Infants, and Children program within Health, Housing, and Human Services. Its acronym is WIC, W-I-C. They help low-income women, infants, and children by providing nutritious foods, breastfeeding support, and health resources. One of our WIC clients recognized our county employee, nutrition assistant Beth Bronstein. The member of the public wrote, "Thank you for taking the time to listen to me, Beth, and let me talk. Being a new mom can be so isolating, and you are always so kind and nice to talk to." So thank you, Beth, and all of our WIC staff for the great work they do to support our community. A note for all of you commissioners, you know this, and the public. The Board of Commissioners will be on recess from July 1st through July 18th for 3 weeks, primarily for attendance at the National Association of Counties Conference, which a quorum of you are attending, and for other board travel. The next business meeting of this board will be Thursday, July 25th at 10 a.m. That is my update today. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. We will move on to Commissioner Communication. Commissioner Scholl, you're up first.
Yes, thank you, and good morning. Clackamas County, on the drug issue that has been plaguing our state and affecting our county. Recently, the U.S. Congress, House of Representatives voted to pass the National Defense Authorization Act for FY 2025. One of the key components would be to bolster border security and address the fentanyl crisis. Many of you might be saying, well, finally they got around to that. This act will bolster DOD involvement in counter-narcotic activities. Will also expand DOD's authority to assist law enforcement in disrupting drug trafficking. So this is very positive, but we have a little problem here in this state, and it's called the Oregon 1987 Sanctuary State Law, which prohibits our police and, in fact, our state employees from working with federal law enforcement. This is a problem. It includes making it illegal for our law enforcement to turn over people in this state who are illegals, who've been convicted on drug charges, to the federal law enforcement. So it's time for change, people. On the short-term rentals, as many of you know, we've worked for quite a little while on our regulation to bring some stability and sense to short-term rentals in unincorporated Clackamas County. And I'm happy to share with you an upgrade to our payment portal for short-term rentals, along with its ability to receive reports on violations of our regulation. We have recently contracted with GovOS, a leading operator in STR oversight, and it will help us administer our program. And we believe that this partnership will allow STR owners and operators to manage accounts more efficiently and effectively. Some other key details that you need to know about is owner-operators who have already registered for our program will receive a letter from GovOS prompting them to create an account in the new system. This letter will include an account number and an activation code. So please, STR operators, look at the clackamas.us/STRs and become informed on this new program. It's going to help you a great deal and make it much easier for us to administer STRs in unincorporated Clackamas County. If you know somebody who's got a STR and it is not registered yet, please talk to them, direct them to our website so they can become in compliance with the county code on short-term rentals. And I recommend you do that as soon as possible. On the 4th of July, it's coming up real soon. I want everybody to enjoy this wonderful American holiday and give some thought to what it really is. It's a time when 56 men signed the Declaration of Independence, and in doing so, put their life and their fortunes on the line. Of those 56 men, after signing the Declaration of Independence, their lives became very, very difficult. Many of them were killed in the Revolutionary War, some persecuted, some tortured, and many lost everything they had for the sake of liberty that we enjoy today in America. And so, one other thing, too, about the 4th of July is everybody loves fireworks. I know I do. But please be careful this year with fireworks. In previous years, we've put a moratorium on the use of fireworks in the county. We did not do that this year. We expect people to be responsible. And for those of you who insist on using illegal fireworks in Clackamas County, just be reminded that that comes with a huge legal liability should things go wrong. So, with that, I wish you all a good day.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. Commissioner West, you're up.
Thank you, Chair. Happy 4th of July early to the county. It is kind of an interesting year. It was just a couple months ago, or maybe a month ago, we celebrated a pretty significant anniversary with D-Day. And there were boys on boats, my son's age, maybe some even a little younger, high school age, as you can just visualize it. It still gives me chills as those boats start to hit the shores and bullets just clanking off the iron. The doors drop, and they ran forward to protect the freedoms and the liberties that we have today. The fortitude to take that risk and to storm that beach for the values and the ideals were worth that, because they're worth fighting for. You roll back a few hundred years before that, and some brave men risked it all. They were not afraid to step out. They didn't have a safety net. There was no safety net. It was, I'm going to sacrifice everything, including potentially my life, to build something that had never been built in human history, quite like America. And they did that. And today we are still that land of opportunity, the place that people clamor to call home, and a place that I feel very blessed to be able to be a part of. I'm exceptionally proud this 4th of July to be an American. It's unfortunate that by my polling data, that many Americans don't say that anymore. We're told that we're rotten, that we're racist, that we're colonizers, that we're not good people. But if you take a moment to step back and look at all of the great things that we have done globally throughout our history and the sacrifices made to protect those ideals that have brought more human flourishing in human history than any other system known to man, I'm objectively okay to say I'm really proud of that. And so when we are having hot dogs and hamburgers and enjoying our time with our families and safely, as Commissioner Scholl reminded us using our fireworks, that we remember that sometimes you have to take a risk. You have to be able to stand up for ideals and values that matter. And you have to step out and do what is right. And sometimes you won't ever see the benefit of that. Many men and women that made these sacrifices throughout history never actually saw the benefit of what we have today and the freedoms that we allow one another. But I still believe that the flag that we still salute in every business meeting, that it is a unifying symbol because it brings all of us together under a unifying principles regardless of where we come from, regardless of our immutable traits, regardless if you're Republican or Democrat. At the end of the day, we all still are Americans. And so this is a really important holiday to remember. I'm proud of our independence and celebrate safely, Clackamas County. And we'll be back.
Yes, Commissioner West, thank you for your comments. Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yep, thank you. I will be out the second week of July, but I will be around still attending some regional meetings and things in the first and third week of July. So I wish you all a great NACO trip for those who are going. I did want to just, it struck me as we've been talking about this letter and talking about the regional discussions regarding or not regarding supported housing services and whether or not that is adequate. I've been reflecting that in my 20-some-odd years of watching and attending meetings both here in Clackamas County and the region and at Metro and at the state level as well, I think sometimes our level of communication has sometimes fallen away, and our coordination amongst one another has kind of fallen away. I know we take great pride in coordinating with our cities, for example. Our Clackamas County Coordinating Committee is an example of working together on a regular basis, speaking with each other. Chair meets with the mayors as well, with this number of organizations that have interactivity and exchange of ideas, and we can always do more. And as things heat up, like libraries, for example, perhaps there's more of that around the corner to get to a resolution for that. But all to say, and I don't mean any harm really whatsoever to our Metro counselors, but I just think about the things where we have interaction that affects our county operations and service delivery to our mutual constituents, such as transportation, which has a committee, land use, which has a committee, impact, Commissioner Schultz sits on that. Metro recycling affects us. Tourism, we have some interaction with their regional facilities like our parks and our parks and open space bond. Those are properties that are in the counties. And I just think that there ought to be maybe a little bit of, take a relook at how we can better work together. I sometimes catch an article or someone calls me about a recent activity and I go, who's doing that? And you might find out to be another county or another city. Even day before yesterday, I learned of a project I was not aware of that was happening right here in the county. So I know we do our best to be aware and apprised of everything, but I just think perhaps we can improve the game for the benefit of our constituents if we can work a little bit closer on some of the important things that are affecting us. And I think with the letter we talked about today and edited today, that would be one example of asking for a discussion with ideally a goal of coordinating and collaborating together. So with that, shift to my last thing I want to talk about today. On day before yesterday, Commissioner Scholl and I attended a event at the Milwaukee Community Center. It was a mural that was done by a local artist, and featured on there were three people that two I recognized and one I was made aware of that was a volunteer. But one of those folks is one of our county employees. Her name is Vaughn Thoreau, if I pronounce that correctly, and she's our greeter down below. She used to work as in the kitchen, I think as a cook at the Milwaukee Center for years. And so, but I just want to acknowledge our greeters down at the first floor who not often get a shout out or appreciation. I appreciate coming in the morning and seeing their faces and their smiley faces and how polite they are and how they're trying to help people. But just to acknowledge, I didn't have any idea that Vaughn worked at the Milwaukee Center, so she's been around a long time. But thank you, Vaughn, and congratulations for being featured in that mural. And the theory of the mural was against the cultural service and the service provided in the Milwaukee Center and how culturally diverse that we are. And there was one gal there that was featured as a ukulele player, and she was actually present. And she's also a volunteer at the Milwaukee Community Center. So shout out to the Milwaukee Community Center for all the great work they do. It was a great showing of people. And with that, I wish everyone a safe July 4th holiday, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. I will be around much of the time on our break. As Commissioner Savas, there's business that needs to be taken care of, especially with the Metro letter that we will be sending over. But I'm also very excited to attend the national conference. In 7.5 years as commissioner, I've never attended a national conference. And I'm looking forward to the educational opportunities as this job becomes increasingly more complex and difficult. It's really nice to be able to go and learn best practices from other jurisdictions, find out what other commissioners are doing across America for mainly the same problems that we have here in Clackamas County. And I look forward to bringing back some education and opportunities for us to move forward on this. Very nice. Oh, I had a mayors and chair meeting, was that yesterday? Wow, time goes by so fast. And the agenda for that was the particular letter that we sent today regarding Metro. The mayors may send their own letter. After we approve this today, it will go out to the mayors, correct?
Yes.
Yes. For them, for their preview, they may want to write their own. And so I offered to share that with them. They are equally frustrated as we are, as I mentioned before. The second item on the agenda was the library district discussion. I think most of the mayors are interested in forming a group and going forward with that. Administrator Gary Schmidt had a very good idea. Around 2019, there was a group that was formed. However, it was disbanded because of COVID, and we have not revisited that group. We might want to consider what that looks like going forward in our next board discussion on the library district. The purpose of that, possible increased funding. I will say this, Commissioners, it's one thing to be able to ask the public for an increase in their taxes to fund what the libraries think they need, but, and I'm very serious about this, we need to bring something to the table on our end as what are we going to do to better enhance the services or try to save money in the formation of this library district. Very easy to put the financial responsibility on the shoulders of our taxpayers in these very difficult times. I think it's going to take a long time for us to get there on this, but I'm more than willing to have the discussion going forward. July 4th is on Thursday this year. I look forward to that. I'll be in town for the week. I will be in the Molalla Parade on a float. I'm wondering if there's going to be another commissioner that will be joining me on that.
Chair, I was asked to be there, but I already committed to be in the Estacada Parade at the same time.
It's hard to be in two places at once.
It's difficult.
I tried to do that, by the way. Finish the Molalla Parade, run all over to Canby, so I was in the beginning of the Molalla Parade, hoping to be at the end of the Canby Parade. That's very difficult to do, Commissioner.
Too hard.
Thank you for that. So you and I will be representing parts of Clackamas County. Thank you for that. We were asked to do that, and I said, sure, be happy to do that. I want to thank everyone for all the well wishes during my medical absence. It was quite trying. It was an emergency, totally unexpected. The doctors at Providence St. Vincent's said I can expect a full recovery and a long life. Thank you very much. I've had excellent care. I've had excellent care since I've returned from home. I am on a limited schedule from doctor's orders, so you're not going to see me at all of these events that you all are attending, but commissioners are attending those. And tomorrow I will be celebrating 4 weeks of surgery. So I think I'm doing okay. I'm pacing myself, but thank you all. Those wishing for my early demise will be sorely disappointed. I'm still here. Seeing no further business before this commission, we are adjourned.